Here are the top landing spots for Brandon Ingram. So an article came out recently, might have been yesterday or the day before, that the Pelicans are unlikely to give Brandon Ingram that max extension, which was like $208 million. And if you watch my videos, you know I never tried to call for a player to be traded, but at the same time, I do think this kind of makes sense for both Brandon Ingram and the Pelicans, because the Pelicans are kind of in a tough spot. If you look at the Pelicans roster, you're like, that's a ton of talent up and down the roster. Like, every position has talent. And so, like, to me, they have a problem with who do we even go with, because they can go down 10, 11, 12 people. And besides that, I think they are banking on Zion, finally being healthy, because he pretty much was this season until, unfortunately, the play-in tournament with the Lakers. And Brandon Ingram and him, although they have coexisted, I think, in my opinion, they are not the best fit together. I'm not saying they're a bad fit, but they're not the best fit, and so that's why I think Brandon Ingram might be traded. So now let me get into who I think could trade for Brandon Ingram. Shout out to Fanspo. Whenever I do make a hypothetical trade, this is the website I always use, so shout out to them, because they actually do have the updated cap and tax apron thing, because it kind of said that when I was making the trade, like, be aware of XYZ. So I'm pretty sure it's newly updated for the new rules. So the first trade is the Cavs getting Brandon Ingram and the Pelicans getting Jarrett Allen. Now, I will say this every time I put up a new trade on the screen, because I'm 100% positive someone's going to say, that's not a fair trade. There's no picks for whatever trade it is. I personally just don't put the picks in here because, like, it's just too much. Because, like, one pick, or maybe it's two picks, like, I'm not here to determine the picks. There will be picks included in all these trades. Let me just make that clear. I'm just putting the player, trade and then add picks. Like, there's going to be picks. So Brandon Ingram to the Cavs and the Pelicans get Jarrett Allen plus picks, whatever those picks are. The reason I think this sort of makes sense is because I feel like the Pelicans, like I said, up and down the roster, they have talent and they have, good quality players at every position. But I feel like what they're missing is kind of like a Jarrett Allen type player. We saw how important Jarrett Allen was to the Cavs this year. He's a very, very good rim protector. He's a good rebounder. And he clearly has expanded his game like we saw it this year. But apparently the Cavs are like, well, we don't know who they're going to trade everybody except for Evan Mobley. But Jarrett Allen seems to be on the trading block. And because, again, they have Evan Mobley, I think, not that it makes sense to move him, but if they're trying to focus on Evan Mobley, I get why they're moving him. And while Valanciunas was very good for them and Larry Nance has been good for them, I think Jarrett Allen would solidify and fit better alongside, obviously, Zion and just everybody else there. So I think this would be a good fit for the Pelicans. I wasn't sure if I should have thrown in maybe a Karis LeVert or something. I don't know if the money worked that way. I didn't look, but that may be an option too. Or Isaac Okoro, although I think he's a free agent. And then from the Cavs standpoint, I feel like we know they have, assuming they keep Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, let's just say, they have their backcourt, their two guards. They have Evan Mobley, power forward, center, whatever you want to classify him as. And so they're good there. And I feel like where they need to step it up, I guess, is from the wing position. And we know Darius Garland is a great passer, so he will get Brandon Ingram some really nice open shots. And we know Brandon Ingram is very efficient with his shot. And I just feel like it is a good fit for the Cavs as well. It just, they would need to add more depth from the center position, I guess, because they're trading Jarrett Allen now. Now, I want to include the Knicks because I know that this has been rumored or, people have talked about Brandon Ingram to the Knicks. Now, this trade, I'm not saying this is the trade that would happen. I'm showing this trade because I don't think it actually will happen, and I don't think it makes sense for the Knicks or for the Pelicans. Because the Knicks are not trading Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, OG, Hartenstein, assuming they re-sign those two, DiVincenzo, probably not Mitchell Robinson. Basically everybody's off the books. Mitchell Robinson, maybe, but they're not trading those people. And I don't think the Pelicans want Julius Randle because he doesn't really fit their timeline in a way. And I feel like he's not necessarily a better fit alongside Zion either. So then the only players to make the salary match would be a Bogdanovich. And then I feel like the Pelicans would be like, that's not enough. Bogdanovich will provide spacing on the floor and stuff like that. But I feel like they would want a Miles McBride. And I don't know if the Knicks want to give up Miles McBride. I know the Knicks have a ton of picks. So it's not that they don't have assets to get Brandon Ingram. I just feel like the Pelicans at this point they don't want a ton of picks anymore. Like, they want to get back a star to compete with. So that's why I feel like this trade would not happen. I just want to put it on the screen because I just don't think it's realistic. I think this trade could be super realistic and might actually happen. I don't know. Let's see if I predict it. The reason I think this trade is realistic for both sides is that Brandon Ingram, well, we know Brandon Ingram fits on like a ton of teams just because of the way he plays, but I feel like he fits alongside what the Hawks are trying to do. And he would just, also Trae Young is, always not leading the league in assists because Tyrese Halliburton did that this year, but he's always up there. He'll get Brandon Ingram open shots as well. Brandon Ingram can create his own shot as well. I just feel like he kind of fits their style of play. And I feel like one of the things that the Hawks are lacking is kind of that second or third in a way, because, DeJounte Murray is there, go-to guy. But when I say that, I mean like from like the wing position or something like that. I love DeAndre Hunter. If you watch this page, if you've been watching for a while, you know I have been a DeAndre Hunter fan since he was at Virginia. I always liked his game, like coming out of college. I thought he'd be really good. And unfortunately, he was just always getting hurt, so he couldn't stay healthy. But this year, he finally was healthy, had a very good season, very, very good defender. And like I said, Brandon Ingram is definitely a better scorer than DeAndre Hunter at this point. And it's not really debatable just because DeAndre Hunter is not putting up the statistics that Brandon Ingram has. And that's no shade at DeAndre Hunter, because again, if you watch this page, you know I'm a huge fan of his. I think DeAndre Hunter would be a perfect fit on the Pelicans. He kind of just would be kind of like Herb Jones in a way, honestly. Like, it's like you have two Herb Joneses. I'm not saying he's necessarily as good of a defender as Herb Jones, because we know Herb is like a crazy good defender. But imagine having like two players similar to that. That's scary. And then you see Clint Capella. I think the Hawks are okay with moving on from Clint Capella. Not only is he on the last year of his deal, but he also doesn't really fit the timeline at this point. And I feel like he's a perfect fit also on the Pelicans. Like, lob it up to Clint Capella, he'll get it. And because it's on the last year of his deal, if it doesn't work out with the Pelicans for whatever reason, his money is off the books. And again, I forgot to say it in the last one, although I said that trade wouldn't happen anyway. There are picks included in here somewhere. I just did not put them in the trade machine thing. Yes, there will be picks. Another trade that I think would be kind of interesting, I don't know if this would happen, but I did talk about recently in a video, maybe like a week ago or so, about how the Denver Nuggets may or may not trade Michael Porter Jr. It just really depends on what they want to do. I feel like, I don't know if this is a good trade or a bad trade for either team. Honestly, I just thought it was interesting, so I wanted to put it on the screen. Again, picks are included wherever the picks are included. But give this one some thought. Tell me what you think about this. And the reason I put Jalen Pickett in this trade is because it said that I had to cut like $150,000 from the Nuggets incoming salary. So I just put, him. And if you watch this page, I actually thought, I thought he was going to be really good coming out of this draft. And he hasn't really got much playing time, so to be determined. But yeah, it could be somebody else with Michael Porter Jr. I don't know. I just give this one some thought. And the last trade I want to talk about is this one. By sending Brandon Ingram to the Jazz for John Collins and Jordan Clarkson, and obviously some picks. Now, I feel like from the Jazz standpoint, this may make more sense for them than the Pelicans necessarily, but hear me out because I feel like it could be beneficial for both teams. There have been reports that the Jazz are kind of going all in to build around Lauri Markkanen, and you're not trading Walker Kessler, obviously. So, and Keontae George, played pretty good in the minutes he played. So I feel like Brandon Ingram would be kind of a perfect fit alongside those two or three, however you consider it. From the Pelicans standpoint, it doesn't necessarily have to be John Collins and Jordan Clarkson. You could change out and swap it with, like, the Jazz have a bunch of people that you could swap it with salary-wise. I just thought this kind of made sense. And again, picks are included wherever they will be included. So, again, this is just one to consider. Like, Brandon Ingram on the Jazz,